Welcome to Midnight Pasta. Tonight's story is Night Shift at an Abandoned Amusement Park. If you haven't subscribed, now's your chance. It helps keep the stories from vanishing. The first thing they told me during orientation wasn't about payroll or emergency exits. It was about the rules. They were printed on a laminated card, slid across the desk by a guy named Dennis who smelled like burnt rubber and Febreze. He didn't say much else, just tapped the list twice with a grimy fingernail and said, "Don't treat these like jokes, not even once." Here's what the card said. 5 rules for the night shift, Meadowbrook Amusement Park. If you hear the carousel start playing music after 2:33 a.m., do not approach. Do not look at it. Do not cover your ears. Just lie flat and wait. The man in the mascot suit is not an employee. He is not your friend. Do not speak to him. If you must enter the Hall of Mirrors after midnight, walk backwards. Do not look directly into your reflection's eyes. Do not feed the cotton candy machine, no matter what it tells you. Clock out before dawn, always. I remember reading the list and chuckling nervously. Dennis didn't laugh. He just handed me a flashlight, a ring of keys, and a radio. That gate locks behind you at midnight. You get 1 entry, 1 exit. No phones, no internet. Security protocol. Emergency buttons on the south tower, but if you hit it, they'll know. "Who's they?" I asked. He just stared at me, then said, "Clock in at 11:58. Not before, not after. Meadowbrook Amusement Park closed down in the early 2000s after a string of unexplained accidents. Fires, disappearances. A kid apparently fell from the top of the Ferris wheel and vanished before he hit the ground. The body was never found. They tried to reopen in 2009, lasted 6 weeks, then came the blackout, the one no one talks about. After that, the place was declared condemned. Except it wasn't. Because somebody still paid for security, still maintained the power grid, still wanted it watched. That's where I came in. I was broke, I needed the work, and it paid very well. Enough to ignore the red flags waving in my face. The first night started quietly. The park looks different at night. It doesn't rot, it waits. The rides aren't crumbling, the lights still flicker, the games still have power. But there's something wrong with how it breathes. The air is too still. The sound carries too far. It's like the whole place is suspended in time. A dream that forgot it ended. I did my first loop around the perimeter. Nothing moved. Nothing whispered. But the deeper I got, the more I felt like I wasn't alone. I passed the bumper cars, empty, still reeking of ozone and mildew. The crazy coaster, rusted rails, cars dangling mid-curve like frozen screams. And then the carousel. It stood at the heart of the park, half covered in a tattered vinyl tarp. The horses were still posed in mid-gallop, manes frozen in cheap fiberglass curls. Some had red stains around the mouths. I tried not to look too hard. The rule said 2:33 and it was barely past 1. Still, I gave it a wide berth. But as I turned to walk away, something caught my eye. On the edge of the carousel platform, nestled between 2 ponies, sat a pair of scuffed white sneakers. Kid sighed. They hadn't been there earlier. I took 1 step closer, and the horse nearest to them twitched. Just a shudder, barely noticeable, but enough to make me back away fast. At 2 o'clock, I stopped to check the Hall of Mirrors. A low, ugly building that sat near the funhouse, with flaking silver paint and a clown-faced door. The interior was dark. I flicked my flashlight across the entrance. The glass was grimy, smeared as if something had been pressed hard against it from the inside. Then I saw a message, written backward across the mirror. "You left me behind." I turned around fast. Nothing was behind me, but my reflection didn't turn. It stayed facing forward, just slightly out of sync. Enough for me to know it was watching. I didn't go inside. Didn't need to test that rule. By 2:30, I was counting the minutes until my shift ended. Then I heard it. Faint, distant. A music box tune carried on a breeze that didn't exist. The carousel. I checked my watch. 2:33 on the dot. I dropped to the ground immediately, face down on the gravel. No earplugs, no humming. The rules said, do not cover your ears, just lie flat. And I did. The music grew louder, not joyful, but slurred, like it was being played underwater. Then, the hoof steps started. Not the clatter of fiberglass, real hoofs. Heavy, wet, sloshing as if through blood. They circled me. Once, twice. Something snorted beside my ear. The stench of rotted meat filled my nose. A soft child's voice whispered, "Are you here to ride with us?" I bit my tongue to stay quiet. The silence dragged on. Then the sound faded. By the time I looked up again, the music had stopped. The carousel was dark, and the sneakers were gone. When dawn neared, I sprinted for the clock-out booth. Rule 5, always clock out before sunrise. I don't know what happens if you don't, and I don't want to find out. Dennis met me outside the gate. He didn't say a word, just handed me a bottle of water and nodded once. As I turned to leave, I noticed something on the back of my laminated rule card, scrawled in black ink that hadn't been there before. Tonight was a test. Tomorrow, we ride. The second night felt colder, not weather-wise. It was still a muggy summer evening in rural Kentucky, but something in the air had shifted. Like the park knew I'd passed the first test, and now it wanted more. Dennis didn't say much as I arrived, just gave me the same solemn nod and walked back to his trailer. He never stayed during the actual shift. I jokingly asked him, "Why don't you hang around? Afraid of the cotton candy machine?" His response was simple and quiet. "I made it to night 4. That's all I'll say." I didn't ask again. I clocked in at exactly 11:58 p.m. The gate clanked shut behind me with that final, echoing dread, like the steel jaws of a trap, resetting. First order of business was a perimeter walk. This time I carried a thermos of black coffee and a pocket-sized Bible. Neither helped much. It wasn't long before I heard the first strange sound of the night. Laughter. But not joyful. Not even mocking. Just slow, deliberate chuckling. Like someone trying to remember how laughing sounded. Cues. It came from near the midway, between the prize booths and the deflated ring toss games. I approached slowly, flashlight off. That's when I saw him. The mascot suit was old, moldy. Red and white stripes faded with time, oversized paws dragging the ground. Bear cow raccoon? Maybe? Or a bear? But the head was wrong. Too tall. Eyes too far apart. He stood next to the old shooting gallery, swaying slightly. Watching me. At least, I think he was watching me. I couldn't see through the mesh of the costume head, just those wide plastic eyes, cracked and cloudy like dead fish. Then he waved. Slowly, like a child pretending to be friendly. Remembered the rule. The man in the mascot suit is not an employee. He is not your friend. Do not speak to him. So, I didn't. I turned around and walked away. He followed. I never heard him move. No footsteps, no rustle. But every time I looked over my shoulder, he was there, just behind me, swaying. Never getting closer, never dropping the wave, just watching. I passed the bumper cars. Yafanis, he followed. When I turned the corner toward the food court, he was gone. Not faded into the shadows, not ducked behind a booth, just vanished, like he had never existed at all. Or like he was never really outside my head to begin with. The rest of the shift passed uneventfully until 2:12. I was checking the south fence where ivy had overtaken the chain link-like veins on old skin when I heard it again. The mascot, laughing. Only this time, it was coming from the intercom system. "Hey, kids, welcome back to me at a brook." The speakers crackled. Some were long dead. Others screeched like they were resisting the transmission. Time for a big surprise in the howl of mirrors. Then silence. I didn't want to go. Every part of my body screamed no. But something else took over. Not curiosity, not courage. Obligation. Like whatever ran this place knew I'd heard, and now I had to respond. The Hall of Mirrors looked worse than the night before. The clown-mouth entrance was still grinning, though I swear the eyes were bleeding now, faint red streaks running down the white paint. I took a breath, then walked in backward. Just like the rules said, at first all I saw were dim reflections of my own back, multiplied endlessly. But then something shifted. In one mirror, my reflection froze, even as I kept walking. I didn't dare turn around. I stared at it in the mirror, walking backward as it stood perfectly still. And then it smiled. Not like a human, not like me. Its mouth stretched, slowly, wider and wider until the jaw cracked. Something glistened between its teeth. Not blood, not saliva, just light, flickering like fireflies in a jar. Then it reached forward, toward the glass. I bolted. I don't remember how I got out. One moment I was running backward, next I was outside breathless on the ground in front of the funhouse. I had cuts on my hands, my flashlight was gone, and in my pocket I'd found something new, a small, worn ticket. On the back, written in red ink, Admit 1, Ride begins Night 3. I threw it on the ground and walked away. By 5:42, I was waiting by the clock-out booth. Sunrise was minutes away, and I still hadn't seen the cotton candy machine, but I could hear it. Somewhere near the snack court, it whirred to life, soft, high-pitched, like it was whispering my name. The worst thing about that third night wasn't the dark. It wasn't the silence. It was the sound of something pretending to be familiar. The cotton candy machine hummed, like it was trying to lull me, seduce me into a sense of safety. But it wasn't. It never had been. I'd spent the first hour patrolling the back lot, trying to keep my distance from the snack court. Every once in a while, the cotton candy machine would let out a wet, slurping churn. Too loud, too organic, like lungs trying to learn how to breathe. The ticket from last night, the one I found in my pocket, it was gone when I checked again. Not dropped, not misplaced, just gone. Maybe that's what did it. Maybe that's what got Rule 3 going. If the cotton candy machine turns on, do not eat from it, even if it talks to you, especially if it talks to you. That's what Dennis had told me, and now, well into my third shift, I was beginning to understand why. At 1:16, the machine spoke. I had my back to it. I was walking past the fried dough shack when I heard the first garbled syllables push through the static. Hum. Danny. That's my name. It didn't sound like my name, though. It sounded like someone choking on a balloon, like a child's voice distorted through a broken PA system, gleeful, wet, eager. Come here, Danny. We made you something. I kept walking. Didn't run, didn't turn, just walked. Steady, measured. Because I knew if I looked at it, I'd want to know. Curiosity kills a hell of a lot more than cats in Meadowbrook Park. The machine whirred behind me again, violently now, angry almost, and then I heard a pop. Then another, like bubbles bursting or knuckles breaking. Then it said, "We miss your face." I made it all the way to the old carousel before I allowed myself to breathe. I leaned against one of the frozen horses. Their eyes had been painted black, but over time the paint had cracked, and underneath was something gleaming. Teeth. At least, they looked like teeth. I shivered. The carousel hadn't moved since the early 2000s when the park shut down. But tonight, I swear I saw it shudder. Just slightly. like something underneath was stretching, trying to wake up. Then I remembered the ticket. Admit 1, ride begins night 3. A gust of wind blew from the east, across the ticket booth, under the seats, straight toward me. And with it, I heard the calliope start to play. Not cheerful, not nostalgic. It sounded wrong. Like the music had been slowed down, reversed, and filtered through a child crying. And the horses began to move, not all at once. Just one at first, a white one with gold trim and a long crack down its face. It began to rise and fall, slowly, as the music warbled. Another horse joined in, then another, until the whole carousel was turning again. Without power, without a soul on it, except for the mascot. He stood on the far side, behind a pale green horse with peeling paint in one eye, still waving, still watching, still smiling with that cracked plastic grin. He rode in slow circles, the suit's head bobbing slightly with every turn. Bar backed away. And that's when the carousel stopped, just froze. The music cut off like someone yanked a plug. The lights flickered once, then died. And the mascot was no longer on the platform. I spun around. He was behind me, so close I could smell him. Mildew. And something else. Like sweet syrup mixed with burnt hair. I didn't breathe, didn't blink, didn't run. Instead, I reached into my back pocket. There, somehow, impossibly, was the ticket again. Still warm, still damp. I dropped it on the ground between us, and the mascot bent to pick it up. Asia. He gave me a little bow, then walked back toward the carousel, disappearing as quickly as he came. It was almost morning. I made my way to the main gate. I passed the cotton candy machine one last time, just to prove I wasn't afraid. It was still on, but now it had made something. A cone of bright pink fluff sat spinning at the edge of the bowl, freshly formed. I didn't touch it. Didn't need to, because in the sticky strands of sugar pressed into the center like a prize inside a Kinder Egg was a human molar. Small, yellowed, and still bleeding. The call came in at 10:42 p.m. Unusual since the park doesn't have a working landline. It came through the two-ways radio Dennis gave me on night 1, the same radio he warned never to use unless it was him calling. Breaker, this is Gate. Come in, Danny. You left the fence open." The voice wasn't Dennis. It was me. My voice. Same rhythm, same nervous crackle. But not quite. More like someone doing a poor impression of me, like they'd practiced it, but didn't understand the cadence. The words came too slow, too careful. "Danny, come back to the main gate. You left it open again. The park doesn't like that." I held the radio in my hands, watching the needle jump with static. Then came a faint scratching, like fingernails against metal. Then nothing. Silence. Rule 5. If you hear your own voice over the radio, do not respond. Leave the park immediately and do not come back. I stood in place, staring at the radio like it might explode. I knew what the rules said, but I also knew the main gate had been padlocked when I came in, so I did something stupid. I walked to the front entrance. There it was, the gate wide open. The lock was melted down into a twisted puddle of steel and rust. And standing just beyond the threshold, in the fog, was a silhouette. Not the mascot. Not a trespasser. It was me. Same jacket. Same flashlight. Same stupid walk I never realized I had until I saw it from the outside. I was holding something in my right hand. A ticket. Identical to the others. Only this one said, "Final ride, you may exit now, one-way trip. Dawn." He stepped back into the fog. I should have turned and run. I should have followed Rule 5 and left the property without looking back. But I didn't. Instead, I followed him. The park changed that night. I don't mean something subtle, I mean the entire layout was different. Like I'd walked through a funhouse mirror into a version of Meadowbrook that existed sideways. The sky was darker than it had ever been. The lights didn't flicker, they pulsed like veins. The concrete under my boots was soft, warm. The rides had moved too. The tilt-a-whirl was on the opposite side of the snack court now. The Ferris wheel had disappeared entirely, replaced by a giant clown head sitting where the petting zoo used to be. Its mouth was a tunnel, and I swear it was breathing. I got sight of myself, the other me, turning down the midway toward the carousel. So I followed. The music had started again, but it was slower this time, dragged out, like the last gasp of a music box left out in the rain. When I got there, the horses weren't moving, but something else was. The mascot. Except this time, it wasn't wearing the suit, it was the suit. I could see the seams twitching, pulsing like arteries. One of the plastic eyes rolled in its socket, following me as I stepped closer. It extended its hand, and in that plastic, child-sized palm, it offered me the ticket again. One-way trip. I didn't take it, I don't know why. Maybe instinct, maybe fear. But when I refused, the thing smiled, wider than it should have been able to. The plastic of its face was cracking with the effort. Then it leaned close and whispered something. "The park remembers who follows the rules, Danny." And then it walked away, merging into the fog. I found Dennis waiting for me at the exit when the sun finally rose. He didn't ask what happened. He didn't have to. He just looked at me, his face pale, his eyes tired. "Did it offer you the ride?" I nodded. "Did you take it?" I shook my head. He looked relieved, but only a little. Then he handed me a slip of paper. Looked like a receipt at first, but it wasn't. It was a new rule, one I hadn't seen before. Rule 6. If you survive 5 nights and receive a final ride ticket, destroy it. If you decline the ride, the park will remember your face. You may leave, but not forever. So I left. I packed up, quit the job, didn't even ask for my last check. I moved 2 towns over, changed my phone number, got a gig loading trucks at a warehouse just outside Des Moines. It's been almost a month, and last night, when I opened my locker at work, I found something inside. Not a note, not a photo, a ticket. Cotton candy pink, still warm. Final ride. You may exit now. One-way trip. The park never lets go. Thank you for your time. If you like the taste, subscribe and like the video. And feed the darkness until next time.